Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of Islam Study Circle. So, in this session, we normally read out to the Quran, Hadith, the Bible. We have a discussion, and of course, then we end up this session with a Q&A segment. So, starting off with our Quranic segment, which is the first. This is Surah number 6, Surah Anam, and verse 12. The words are كتب على نفسه الرحمة ليجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه. God has made mercy mandatory on himself. He will definitely bring you together to take you to the day of judgment about which there is no doubt. So, as you can see that the very precise description of the day of judgment from this verse shows that basically it is a day on which the mercy of God will manifest itself, and it is the reason that this day will be brought about by the Almighty. Mercy is that reason. I mean, of course, His mercy is found in this world as well, but in this world, His mercy is governed by His law of trial and test, and so therefore it is a selective manifestation of His mercy that we find in this world, and that is the reason for that is that the trials and tests through which mankind is put through at times requires His mercy, and at times it requires His anger as well. So, but on the day of judgment, His mercy will completely manifest itself in the sense that everyone will be judged exactly according to what he or she had done. In this world, people might make hay if they have done bad deeds, and they might be in a spot of bother if you have done good deeds, but this will not be the case in the hereafter. In the hereafter, whatever we have sown in this world, so shall we reap. Every person will be held accountable before the Almighty. Every person will be made to answer for his or her deeds. No one will be able to carry the burden of any other person, and a person will be faced with this ordeal that whatever he or she did in the past is going to reflect on now on the account of his deeds. We know that there are certain major sins for which the Almighty says that unless forgiveness is sought with a true and sincere heart, uh, the people who are guilty of such sins will be consigned to eternal hell. And there are other sins about which you know that if the number of sins outnumbers the number of good deeds, then a person will be put through the punishment of hell and then will be taken out once the punishment has been completed. So, as a very important area in the Quran, as a very important discussion in the Quran, this is one verse which tells us that it is God's mercy for which we have to wait. God's mercy which will one day manifest itself in its complete form. And if there has been some hanky-panky that people have done with other people, or they have been unkind or dishonest, or in any way they have deceived them, then on the day of judgment, everything will be settled. All accounts will be settled, and the deeds of people and the reward or punishment of those deeds will be proportionate, will be commensurate, and people will know that now the promise that was made to them by the prophets of God, by the books that they brought with them, the time for fulfillment of that promise has now come. So the Quran is an absolutely, it's a scripture that is in line with the previous scriptures. The previous scriptures have also very accurately depicted the fact that the hereafter is what we are all to aspire for. This world is an incomplete world. This world is a world in which, if we don't view it together with the next world, it will appear to be a place of oppression, of injustice, of all sorts of horrific incidents. We find earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes and floods and fires and infernos, so many things which in the form of natural calamities they manifest themselves and destroy people and property in a very large way. Similarly, we see in this world that people are not secure from the oppression and clutches of other people. They do all sorts of oppressive deeds, and we don't know how these people would be brought to justice, because at times they escape justice, at times they run away from justice, at times a judge can make a mistake in spite of being absolutely competent. At times, the nature of the crime is such that even if the person is punished by the death penalty, one still thinks that this is not sufficient penalty. For example, if a person is guilty of killing several people at the same time, people who are guilty of mass murder, even if their life is taken, we don't feel that justice has been done. So this world is a place in which injustice is there, and the reason for this injustice, and the reason that here we don't find the deeds to be commensurate with the reward or punishment, is that this world is a place of trial and test. In this world, people are put through various circumstances. These circumstances are like hardships that they pass through. These circumstances are difficult ones at times, and it is the testing of the mettle of a person which is taking place in this world. So the Almighty is selecting individuals who He would like to uh, admit into His paradise, and God, and He knows whether He has some higher maybe objective for them or not. Otherwise, of course, what we have been told in the Quran is that it will be a place of eternal bliss. It will be a place in which all sorts of injustices will be compensated if a person is to some extent fully satisfied that yes, if in this world he is suffering, then the compensation of this suffering will take place in the next world, as long as he is fully aware of this, as long as he fully acknowledges the existence of God. And so the whole topic of the Quran, if you look at it from one angle, is that it actually gives this very, very important news that there is going to be a day of judgment. And that day of judgment is the real day for which this world has been created. And that is precisely why the messengers of God are called Rasul, which means that they come with this message of the Almighty. They are sent by the Almighty about this very, very important piece of news. And the prophets who are called Nabi, of course, Nabi is a person who brings news. Naba is the Arabic word for this. And they bring this all important news that one day a person is going to stand before the Almighty. He is someone who is going to face the music if he or she is not going to fulfill the standards and criteria for which people were called. Also, of course, we would need to understand this, that one of the greatest ordeals which Muslims or mankind in general has been faced or has been facing is that they are not able to resolve the miseries of this world with the mercy of the Almighty. And one of the reasons for atheism to spread so fast and so speedily in this world today is that this is an age-old question. I mean, it's not just a question that has arisen today. It is a very old question, but maybe today it has been presented in a very precise and accurate way, and there are many articulate voices that have voiced this objection, and that is that how can we reconcile the misery of God with His mercy? And if He is a merciful God, that why do we find so much misery in this world? And because people think that this cannot be reconciled, so many of them end up giving up religion. So it is for such people that this verse tells us that God's mercy is something, if they need to see it in full, if they need to see it in its perfect form, then that is not this world that they'll see it. If they're going to see the manifestation of His perfect mercy in the next world, when He is going to settle the accounts of people, He's going to reward people or He's going to punish people. And the nature of that accountability is that God says that I even know the intentions of people. So such will be the profound nature of this judgment, that people will be judged not only for what they did practically, but also for what they thought, what was in their minds, the things that they feigned, the things that they pretended, and their outward and their inward personalities, how at times it was not in consistency with one another, will show that this is how a person was behaving from outside, but inside he had something else hidden. So such will be this perfect nature of accountability, that every single person, every single deed, however hidden it might be before the eyes of the world, however minute it might be, but before the judgment, before the court of God, that smallest of deeds and the smallest of intentions which a person has will be brought before that person, and then of course he or she will have to settle the account. And that is something which the Quran says is the reason and the hope that we should all live for. And we should think that this life is not the end. It's the start of another life. Once we end this life, we begin another life, and that is real life. That is the life that we need to strive for. That is the life for which we have to connect ourselves with God. And that is precisely the life for which, at times, if we suffer in this world, we should bear this suffering with resolve, with steadfastness, with determination, because we know that the ills that we have been inflicted with in this world will be fully done away and compensated when we meet the Almighty in the next world. We now come to the next segment of our study circle, and this is uh, a hadith that we'll be studying. This is a hadith from Al-Jami al-Sahih of Imam Muslim. So I'm just going to read the translation, and it says, Abu Huraira reported that God's messenger said, "Do you know who is poor among us?" The companions replied, "A poor person among us is one who is penniless and is without provisions." At this, the Prophet remarked, "The poor of my ummah is one who would come on the day of judgment with prayers, fasts, and zakat, but he would have abused some person and falsely accused another of fornication, devoured the wealth of a person, and shed the blood of another, and beat up another. Then one good deed after another will be given from his account and given to the one he had oppressed. If these good deeds will fall short to pay back what he was liable for, the sins of those he had oppressed will be taken and credited into his account, and then he will be thrown into the fire of hell." So such is the importance that of good deeds which the Almighty has said through his prophet, that as far as these deeds are concerned, a truly rich person is a person who brings good deeds with him on the day of judgment. For if he is a person who has brought evil deeds and wrongdoings with him before the Almighty, then he in fact is to be classified as a really poor person. So poverty is not to do about money or the amount of wealth you have, because that is something you will have one day and it will be taken away. Poverty is the poverty of having a lack of good deeds. If you don't have enough good deeds before you, and at the same time, if you have oppressed another person, then on the day of judgment, you will be made to exchange your good deeds for the bad deeds that you did to the other person. And if your good deeds they fall short, as the hadith tells us, then the sins or the bad deeds of the person that you oppressed will be transferred in our account. And may God have mercy on us and may this never happen. But this is something, once again, that we have to understand, that our greatest accountability is yet to come. In this world, our conscience is something that reminds us that accountability is a phenomenon which is going to take place at a very large scale. In this world, our conscience tells us what right and wrong are. And in the next world, the manifestation of the recompense of what we do in this world is going to take place. And then it will take place in a way that every single person will understand that the wealth that he had or she had, or the assets or the property or the amount of money is absolutely not going to be there to comfort that person. So one must not be misled by the gadgets and the property and the riches and the affluence and the luxuries of this world, and think that if God has given people this luxury in this world, then they'll have the same in the next world. And by the way, in the Quran, we find that the idolaters would often say this, and they would say that, well, look at us. God has blessed us with wealth. He has blessed us with so much affluence. And how can this have happened if we were wrong people, if we were bad people? And since He has blessed us with a lot of wealth in this world, there is no reason that He will not bless us with the same wealth in the next world as well. So this was a grave misconception that they were afflicted. They thought that this is how they're going to be blessed once again in the hereafter. But they are being told that, remember, being blessed in this world is not a reward, not necessarily a reward. It's a trial and a test that you are put through. And if you find yourself without good deeds in the hereafter, then this is what poverty is. Then this is what being a pauper is. This is what is something that you will be needing immensely on the day of judgment. And then, unfortunately, even the closest of our relations will not be there in any way to support us. In fact, on certain occasions, the Quran has said that the person would like to give his family, his friends, his wife, and the closest of his relations in ransom to be saved from the chastisement on the day of judgment, from the painful punishment that awaits that person, but he will not be able to do so because everyone will be answerable for his or her own deeds. No one is going to be in a position to offer his or her support. We have to stand alone, and that is precisely what the Quran has said, that we come alone in this world, we'll be taken back to the next world very much alone. No one will be with us. The closest of our relations will not be there. What will be there are the deeds that we would have done. And if we don't have those deeds with us, those good deeds with us, then this is what this hadith tells us, that we are really poor then. Then poverty will be writ large on our face. We will have nothing to offer to God except the fact that the good deeds that we would have at that time will be given away to the person that we had oppressed or maybe abused or maybe misbehaved. And then if that too, they too fall short, then the hadith says that the sins of that person or the bad deeds of that person will then be transferred to the account of the person who was responsible for that oppression. We now come to the next segment, and uh, this is an excerpt from the Bible. This is the book of Proverbs, and we know that this book was revealed to Prophet Solomon. And so this is chapter 14, verse 16. It says, "For an upright man, after falling 7 times, will get up again, but trouble is the downfall of the evil." So again, a very, very purposeful verse, a very motivational verse, and that is a person who is upright, a person uh, who feels that he is responsible to God, a person who feels that accountability before people also in this world. If he suffers a reversal, if he somehow is able to be defeated in his aims, he does not give up. He never gives up. Every time he falls, he gets up again. And as this beautiful verse says, that even after falling 7 times, he will get up again. Of course, the word seven here is referring to the fact that as much as is could one imagine, it's not that it's the number seven that is being implied, but of course, it's a large number that is being implied. That even if this happens, that he's not going to lose hope, he's not going to give up, because that is what he has been taught by the scriptures. That is what he has been taught by the prophets, never to lose hope, never to give up. On the other hand, a person who is an evil person, a person who has given himself up to licentiousness, to sins, to all sorts of corruption, about that person, this verse says that, but the trouble is the downfall of the evil. When such a person, he continues to lose or in somehow suffer, then he does not have, or she does not have, the strength, the courage, and the resolve to get up once again. He or she loses hope. He or she thinks that, well, I am doing this all the time, I'm trying my best, and every time I do my best, I face reversal, I face failure time and again. And then such a person is left with no strength and courage to get up. But on the other hand, people who are righteous, people who are God oriented, people who are connected with God, they feel that if somehow they are not being able to overcome some of their deficiencies, and every time that they make a commitment to themselves that I'm going to overcome my deficiencies, I'm going to rise, I'm going to climb in this moral race of becoming a better person, every time they suffer, every time they fall down, they get up again and again and again. And remember what the Almighty has also said in the scriptures, including the Quran, that as long as a person comes in any sort of failure and tries again, and especially if this failure relates to the commitment and resolve to overcome bad habits, to overcome evil habits, and as long as he does so continuously, the Almighty is going to forgive that person each time. Especially if any sin is done in frenzy and a person comes out of that frenzy, and as soon as he does, he immediately apologizes to God, repents before God, and then God says that I'm bound. It's mandatory upon me to forgive such a person. And there has been no count mentioned in the Quran that if you do it again and again, it does not say that, well, if you do it twice, thrice, or 4 times, or 10 times, then once this number is over, God is not going to forgive you. No, this is never mentioned in the Quran. On the contrary, the message that we get is that as long as and as many times as we fall and as many times as we falter, as long as we come back to God, He is going to be there for us, even if it happens 100 times or even more than 100 times. So it's like telling us and giving us this hope that every time we fall, every time we suffer some failure, it is with some resolve that we should come back to God again, once again, try and try and try again. So with this, we come to an end to these segments, and now we are over to a coordinated segment, in fact, which is going to be coordinated by our worthy coordinator, Mariam. And so this is, which quality do people like a lot in me? So it's something of a soul searching that I would like all of you to do. It's not a self praise when you are discussing these qualities, because basically they are meant to motivate, inspire, and be shared by other people so that they also get this motivation from you. So over to you, Mariam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. The way I interpret this question, since you said we're not meant to be bragging, but rather we're meant to be inspiring others, is sort of like self-improvement. So over the years, I've had certain aspects of me pointed out that I've worked towards, and now I'm happy. Like sometimes I hear people compliment those aspects in me that I didn't have before. So one of them was that I wasn't expressive enough and I couldn't get my feelings across properly. And so for that, I tried to work really hard in front of a mirror to work on my expression so I can convey my thoughts through my face. And I think that betterment in communication helped people around me too to understand what I'm trying to say. And now people think I'm very expressive. So I'm glad that has worked out. So in a way, um, we'll take this sort of in a self-improvement way so that y'all don't feel like you need to be bragging, because I'm not seeing raised hands. We have one now, but I want to see more participation. So so that's what I have from my part. Let's go to our raised hand. Bisma, please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Saleem, and Assalamualaikum, everyone. So this is a very, very interesting question. So I feel, I was at a meeting a long time ago, and there a gentleman said something very interesting that kind of really, I think I've tried to apply to my life, and I think it'll be wonderful if everybody tries to kind of think about that. They said whenever you have a negative thought or whenever you're feeling angry, agitated, or something you're not being able to understand, try to change your perspective. That is something that kind of just opened my eyes. So now what I do is whenever I'm feeling, you know, anguished or angry, or when I feel somebody's made a wrong decision or somebody's acted in a way that I felt was not required, I try to change my perspective and try to think from a different angle. And that has really helped me, um, you know, in analyzing things and just being peaceful myself. So I think that is something that we should try to work on. If we can change our perspective of things at times, and kind of try to not always let our worst demons analyze things, I think that has been very helpful to me personally.
So, if in one word, if someone asks you that what is the quality that people like in you, it would be that when you come across scenarios or opinions which you think are not palatable, not digestible, so you try to view them in a new
Right.
light, and
Right.
and these things then make sense to you.
It makes things easier for me, Dr. Salim. So I've tried to kind of, if somebody is saying something, I won't always think that they're saying it because they don't like me, or they have an ill will towards me, or it could be that they had their circumstances are making them say it, or it could be just something that's on their mind, something that's happening in their life. I don't have to judge people all the time. So that is something that
Right.
has really, really helped me um, get a better perspective. So just change your angle of things. So, because we are
Correct.
sometimes so focused on the way we think that we try to even if there's nothing wrong with the picture, we try to force something wrong with it because that is our perspective. Our ego and our arrogance is so much, at the forefront of
Mm-hmm.
our making decisions at times, that we don't back down. So if we just move our perspective, just move to a
Mm,
different angle of the room and see the person differently and see whatever they're
mm,
saying, from their point of view, things kind of just become a little easier and a little more palatable, I think.
correct.
So
That's a
that's
good advice. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. So the age-old advice, put yourself in the other person's shoe.
Mm,
yes. Also, just for the sake of discussion, if somebody is saying something negative, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like me.
mm,
It could just generally, or they don't like the
mm-hmm.
situation, or they did not, you know
Correct.
they carry ill will. It's just that, that's just the circumstances, and that's just
Mm,
their motivation may be completely different. It may have nothing to do with me. So, getting yourself out of your ego out of the whole thing, I think that's helped me.
mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for that. This might takes a really tough skin to have that kind of attitude in life. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mariam. Appreciate that.
Akram Latisa, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Sir, my best critic is, or worst critic is my wife. When you hear
salam. Okay.
something from her that's
Uh,
has a lot of weight. So
correct.
when I came to this country in Pakistan, I was an aeronautical engineer. I had 3 licenses on airplanes, but I could not get a job or even start education. I was stubborn, so everywhere I went, they said you have to go get a license over here. I didn't do that, and in the meantime, I got married, and then I said, "Heck with it! I have raised my family." So I started
Mm,
doing different things, anything that came in the way. And
mm,
like 3 4 years ago, somebody, a very close friend, came home, and then they asked my wife, "What do you like about this man?" And she
mm,
said, "Oh, he doesn't give up. When hardship comes, he doesn't give up." And when I came from third, it came to me from third person. That really
mm.
gave me a big boost to my heart, and I said,
That's
"Alhamdulillah."
wonderful.
That I
Mm,
didn't even know that anything came my way, I did that, and
mm, mm,
more than 50 years now I've been on unemployment, and I will did
mm, mm.
everything. But coming from her, it was a big encouragement
Correct.
for me, and
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? There's a very famous saying which says that no man is a hero to his wife. And if you prove to be a hero, or if your wife really gives you some positive feedback, then you really need to be, I mean, you really deserve to be happy, I would say, because, I mean, wives not don't normally, I mean, fully praise someone unless they are worthy of being praised, which doesn't mean that they don't praise. It only
especially
means
when I
that,
heard from third person and not from
right,
herself to third
correct,
person. That was very encouraging.
very good.
Alhamdulillah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Akram Latisa. Siddiqa, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Well,
So, like Akram Bhai right now, but not, I don't have a wife, but I have a daughter, and she is my biggest critic. And as you asked the
mhm,
question, I looked over at her and I asked her, and she said, and my husband agreed. So it's my sense of humor. But I was hoping it
mhm,
would be something different, but apparently it's my sense of humor. And so
mhm,
I hope that when I'm usually giving her a lecture, she doesn't think it's a joke. But I think
mhm.
I need to work on that now.
Wonderful. I mean, to have a sense of humor is a big plus because normally, you see, the thing is that we normally get so drowned, I would say, in the routine of life that that cheerful face, that cheerful countenance, it just goes missing. And if you're able to meet people in a cheerful way, or maybe crack that odd joke, or just give us some small comment, maybe some small talk, not loose talk, some small talk, it always helps. It always creates ripples in a depressive atmosphere, and I think it's a big plus. And in fact, this is something that we find in the personalities of a lot of great people, that they were very cheerful, they were very, I mean, not say humorous, but they had this sense of humor, that would light up any gathering that they would be part of.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Sadiqa. And you know what? People with good sense of humor, you can count on them
Correct.
to like really brighten you even after a bad day. So to have a very cheerful and funny mom, that's one of the top things you can ask Allah for.
Mhm.
Okay,
Correct.
up next we have Noshad Shafkat. Please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, yes, first of all, let me say a big thank you to Bisma. I think she brought up an excellent point. And since I got to know about the topic for today's discussion, I was reminded of Churchill when he got up in the House of Commons and talked about Attlee. He said that the Prime Minister has made a very modest speech and he has much to be modest about. So I
Mhm.
felt very modest about it. But the quality that people like most in me is that I am always available to help people, to help others, in the sense that I've received calls from my nieces
Mhm.
at 11 o'clock in the night that they have
Mhm.
to deliver a speech tomorrow. And
Mhm.
could you please write it down and send it to us, email it to us? And I've
Mhm.
done that. I've done it for a nephew who was in England. And he
Mhm.
called me at 2 o'clock in the night and said that he needed to answer a legal question. I did that for him, sitting up till Fajr. So this is
Mhm.
one quality which I feel
Mhm. Mhm.
has been beneficial to many, but has also harmed me a bit in life, in the sense that
Mhm.
I don't have the ability to say no to anybody. That's one of the weaknesses that I have and which I acknowledge. And even till today, I'm not as
Mhm.
lucky as Akram Bhatti Saab, my wife, she
Mhm.
always taunts me about this, that you go out
Mhm.
of the way to help out others and
Mhm.
see where have they reached and see where are you right
There
now.
you are.
So that's it. So
Wonderful.
helping out others and trying to cheer up people. In fact, I was wanting to say about the sense of humor. I have, by the grace of God, a lot of it, and I know a lot of Urdu poetry. So whenever
Mm.
a situation, odd situation arises, I quote
Mm.
some couplet
Couplets.
which
Okay.
eases the situation. So
Okay. Which
that's
is
my
appropriate.
plus point in my
Okay.
case. Thank you.
Is there a couplet that you have for the moment?
सर कही जो बात मतलब की तो वो कहने लगे हंसकर कि सब कुछ
नहीं,
और हो सकता है लेकिन ये नहीं होगा.
ये नहीं होता. Nice. That's nice. Okay, that's wonderful, Nashad bhai. Thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's so I'm like very glad to hear that we have so many reliable and helpful participants, like people that genuinely close to
Mhm.
them tell them these things. And that's huge, especially when it comes from family, because you have a different image when you're at work or at a professional environment, but coming home when
Mhm.
you're tired and you hear those praises from your family, that's a different
Mm.
kind
It's
of
a different. Oh,
level.
yes.
That was all for our discussion segments. We'll move on to the Q&A. So again,
Mhm.
raise your hand if you have any questions. It doesn't have to be related to today's topic. Anything that you'd like to ask is very welcome.
Mhm.
And you
Correct.
can also type your questions in the chat. And while we're waiting for questions, Dr. Saleem, what would you say to end the discussion? We never got to hear
Oh,
about your best quality.
uh, uh, I don't know. Maybe I never thought about it, to be honest. Uh,
I will say you are beloved by all of us, and many, many, many more people. And your presence is the kind of presence that, whether it's in person or online, it just radiates, and it really, for me, it makes my day. So I'm glad, I'm really grateful for these weekend sessions. So you bring a
thank
kind of
you.
joy that's it's a very unique joy that you bring to people, and a very
Thank you.
unique
Mhm.
sense of comfort.
Thank you.
I look forward to Saturday and Sunday sessions.
Right.
Okay, so time for questions. Bisma, please go ahead.
So, Dr. Salim, tell me one thing. I think I asked a question a few weeks ago that does the namaz really get qaza? And if I remember correctly, the only namaz that does get qaza is fajr. If I heard you correctly. Otherwise, the other ones you can say 5 to 10 minutes before the next prayer is up. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
You see, the word kaza is normally spoken of the fact when you miss the prayer offering it on time. So this word is normally spoken when we have missed the time of a prayer and the time has expired, the time is up, and now we have to sort of redo or compensate for a lost prayer. So that is how kaza is defined. Other than that, I mean, all the prayers, they have a certain time limit. Of course, Fajr means that you have to pray before sunrise, and even a minute before sunrise is okay. Similarly, all other prayers, even a minute before the next prayer, the time of the next prayer comes, you can pray that, offer that prayer. So that is how all the prayers work. I mean, before the time expires, you don't have to be, I mean, wait or think that, well, unless it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes should be given as a buffer, and then before that I can pray. So, no,
Right.
you can pray till the very end of the time which expires. And Qaza, for example, it may happen more in Fajr in the sense that you might not get up on time. And then that actually means that, I mean, so there's one thing that you might have gotten up on time, but somehow you could not manage to get up from your bed and you just fell asleep again. So that is something of a negligence, I would say, that you got up, you were able to open your eyes, and somehow you were overcome with sleep and you just slept. So of course that is something that we should try to overcome as much as possible. And the second is that you never got up. For example, the alarm, it rang, but you were so deep in sleep that the alarm could not wake you up, or any other means that you had set for yourself to wake you up, it did not work, and you just slept through. So in that case, whenever you get up, your namaz or your prayer, especially the Fajr prayer, is going to be what you call offered in a time which is acceptable. It's not going to be regarded as qaza, because qaza means that you are able to have some consciousness of the time when you were there for that prayer, and then you were not able to do that. If that never happened, as does happen in the Fajr prayer, that I mean, alarms and all sorts of other measures are not able to at times wake a person up. So whenever he or she gets up, it could be 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever the time. So that would be considered as a prayer that was offered on time. And this is once which happened with the Prophet as well. And so once when he was in a journey, he had actually asked Bilal, the prayer caller, that please wake us up on time. And somehow Bilal also fell asleep, and the whole army fell asleep. And when they got up, actually the sun was fully out. And so this is something which happened to the Prophet as well, as I said, and it actually means that your prayer would be counted as one that was offered on time, because as I said, that there is no penalty for a person who could not get up on time, in spite of all the efforts that he or she could manage.
Okay. So just a short question connected to this. So, Dr. Salim, namaz somehow, I have not been a person who said my panch namazein all my life. It's later on in life. So I did initially as a young person, then I was always conscious about
Hmm.
roza and everything, but namaz kind of fell off. It became
Hmm.
until the last 5-10 years.
Hmm.
So my
Hmm.
question to you is, it's since I've started taking the sessions and following you and Dr. and Professor Ghamidi, it's become very easy to say my namaz because you've taken away all the frills and the trimmings
Hmm.
and कि ये भी करना है, ये भी करना है, otherwise ये नहीं होगा, वो नहीं होगा. So my question to you is this supposed to be this easy? Because somehow
Ah.
it's become, is
Hmm.
it supposed to be? Because the 5 namaz, because now I just say them because it's a something that I have to do, and I'll do it with the purest of intentions, but in the best
Hmm.
circumstances I can find myself at a certain point in time.
Hmm.
Is it supposed to be this easy, or is it supposed to be harder? Because all our life we've come to think that it's supposed to be something more. So
So
just
I
wanted to
think
get.
it's the way that we have been trained, unfortunately, and taught has made not just praying, but religion as a whole a burden to carry and difficult responsibility to discharge. My personal take on this is that if you look at how God and His Prophet tell us what to do or what not to do, and not only they tell us what to do and what not to do, but they also tell us the reason why certain things should not be done and certain things should be done or observed. So the reasoning and the wisdom behind those things is so convincing. It is as if we find that, well, this is something that has to be done or should not be done. So because we are educated from the Quran and from the Prophet regarding the reason why we should do certain practices and why we should not, that we find that it is as if it is the voice of our own heart, that it becomes so easy for us. So I think that it is just a question of discovering the right frequency or the correct frequency, I would say, on which God and His Prophet spoke. Because my experience, and I think so many other people have the same experience, that if you look at what God and His Prophet had actually said, you'll find that things are so easy, they're so comfortable, they're so, in fact, I would use the word enjoyable. You enjoy your worship, you enjoy whatever your religion tells you, because you gain that mental satisfaction, you feel that assurance, you feel that happiness around you. And what more do we need? So I think that it's more a question of the fact that mostly people have been trained and instructed in religion in a way that religion has become a burden, and that is one of the reasons that we find people drawing away from religion, especially the younger lot. They are not very fond of religion because the way it is taught to them is, it becomes not only a burden at times, but also it's not a convincing thing to them. I mean, when they are told certain things that they should do, they find this question coming to them, that why should they do this, because it doesn't make sense. So I think this is the reason that people who are especially living in the subcontinent, because of the fact that to them religion has never been a means of understanding something and then following it. It is basically a means of just being forced it down your throat and following it without questioning it, that it becomes a burden.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Slim. Truly appreciate you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Noshad Shafka, please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Saab, just a small clarification before I ask my question, that when you wake up late for Fajr, uh, it is important that the first thing that you do is to offer the Fajr prayers. Not that because you have got up when the sun is up and you attend to other chores and then
Correct.
later
Hmm.
on. My
Yes.
question is that thank you for explaining the second part where you talked about who is poor in reality. Thank you, because the hadith that you quoted in full uh,
Hmm.
makes it clear. I would like just to know that, for example, I've spoken harshly to somebody
Hmm.
and I have 40 years of unbroken chain of namaz. It wouldn't
Hmm.
be possible for that person to get all my good deeds wiped out
Hmm.
just
Of
because
course.
I've spoken harshly to him.
Of
Is that the
course.
correct
That is the
interpretation?
correct thing. I mean, only I mean, it would be proportionate. Whatever you'll be able to offer is going to be in proportion to the harm that you caused or the offense that you committed. Also, remember that if you have had the chance in this world to apologize for your harshness and the person forgives you, then your balance is zero. It is only when you're not able to maybe offer your apology, or maybe the person does not accept it, or maybe the person has passed away, or somehow you're not in touch with that person, that on the day of judgment you'll be made to face that person once again, and you'll still have a chance to say sorry to that person, and maybe that person still accepts your apology. If he does or she does, then of course once again the balance is zero. It is only when the other person does not accept your apology that this will happen.
Then it has to be commensurate with the
Of
harm
course,
that I've done.
it will be absolutely proportionate and commensurate with the harm that you inflicted. It cannot just wash away all your good deeds.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Siddiqa, please go ahead.
So in Canada this weekend we have Thanksgiving over here, and I was just I had a theory in my mind that I sort of wanted to bring to you because it was just in my mind. I haven't really said anything about it, but am I really off when I say the following, that the whole Thanksgiving idea was, as we know, a pagan tradition, right? And I feel like how the Jews had, um, uh, the whole Saint Paul thing, and how they manipulated and brainwashed Christianity at the time. I often feel that with the pagan traditions of saying thank you to all the gods that they had, and then the
Mm.
chanting and all those ceremonies, etc., I feel like that has been sort of instilled in Christianity, because Christians now who very religiously celebrate Thanksgiving, they also say very confidently that this is from our religion. So, I mean, giving
Mm.
thanks and being grateful, how we're also supposed to be, is one thing, right? Obviously, like that's. I'm not talking about if we should be grateful or not, but the ceremonies and the actual thing about Thanksgiving. Would I be totally off to say what I'm saying, or?
So, I see, we need to differentiate between a lot of things. First of all, when Christians celebrate Thanksgiving, so remember, they are monotheists. They believe in one God. The only way that they do so is a deviant way. They believe in this Holy Trinity, as we all know. So, but still, the fact is that the Quran treats them as monotheists. It treats them to be people who believe in one God, and that is why, at not a single instance in the Quran are they called polytheists, in spite of being guilty of certain polytheistic practices. So, I think if you're talking about in the perspective of a Christian, I would say, background, then I don't see any wrong thing about it. If you suggest celebrate it and thank God on your own. I mean, it's not that you are going to do it in a public way or maybe going to participate in a ceremony. It's just the fact that it's a day of expression of thanking God the way we all thank God in various ways, like maybe doing some good deed, maybe praying, or maybe even fasting, something like that. So I think that unless you're referring specifically to a pagan tradition or a pagan custom specifically, like for example, if you spoke the same thing regarding Halloween, although Halloween has now evolved and changed and gone through a number of changes, there could have been some pretext for that. But I don't think Thanksgiving is something, if it is celebrated in the Christian context, that should be any cause of concern. Yes, in the pagan context, but remember, Christians are no longer pagans. They were never regarded as pagans.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Noshad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Dr. Saab, right at the fag end, no questions, only appreciation for both your moderators, Mariam and Visma. They've been absolutely excellent, and I think the best that I've seen in many sessions that I attend.
So,
Congratulations to both of them. They've been really, really very good.
mashallah,
And mashallah,
that is.
you, Dr. Saab, your classes, I think, are just way beyond any verbal description that I can find. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. Allah Ta'ala ka karam hai. If words nikal jate muh se. Visma, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Naushad Sabkat Saab. To tell you the truth, I think these classes have been the best thing that could have happened to me. So, Dr. Saleem, I think, is the best mentor for me, and I think I've been very lucky. And it's wonderful to share this with Mariam, who's just brilliant, and she's like my own kid. So, it's just a wonderful forum. Just to talk about the
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving,
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a pagan thing. I think it's more being grateful. I think now all the immigrants also celebrate it, so it's not per se a
Mm-hmm.
Christian holiday. It's a American holiday, which is
Mm-hmm.
just for being where you get together, go back to your family basically, and just thank uh, you know uh, the Lord and your
Mm-hmm.
family and Allah and
Mm-hmm.
just society, friends. So I think it's some more celebration of each other. That's what I think. So I don't know if I'm
Mm-hmm.
I
wrong or
agree with Bisma, and I also understand that it's not any religious thing. It's only in your own
Mm-hmm.
sphere. You thank God for Allah, what Allah has blessed you with. He has
Mm-hmm.
blessed you with us with millions of things that we can. Every morning you get up in the morning, and then there's 100 million of things to thank Him for. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I don't know the history, but I celebrated thanking my God for all the things He had
Mhm.
done for me.
Correct. I think that if you look up the history of Thanksgiving, you'll find that is related to the harvest time. It is also related to some of the other cultural aspects. I mean, it's more of an expression of your gratitude towards God, and in general that you are living a prosperous life. And so I think that this should not be a cause of any concern.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Saleem. Do we have any follow-up questions? We're almost towards the end of the session.
I have a question about Halloween. It's coming up, and I tell my kids not to celebrate it because of all the horrible looking creatures we see all around. What is history? Anybody knows the history about?
Of Halloween, are you talking
Yeah,
about? Oh
yeah.
yes, so Halloween is, I mean, there are so many versions of Halloween or its origin, but I think regardless of the origin, today is celebrated more as a fun activity in which children wear all sorts of apparels and masks, I would say. And yes, there is some superstition also attached to it with pumpkins and the rest. But I think that in all fairness, if your children, like your grandchildren or your children, they do want to celebrate it, I don't think we should stop them, because you see, these are cultural aspects which a person would like to participate or not participate, and we should leave them to decide for themselves. And the reason I'm saying this is that even if we differ with whether this should be celebrated or not, in fact, if we think that it should not be, so I think that more important is to to look at the whole scenario in the grand scheme of things and look at the broader picture. And the broader picture is that if your children or your grandchildren, they are connected to God, if they are praying, if they are good human beings, if they have other positive traits which a good person has, if they are God conscious, if they fast, and of course the other religious rituals that they observe. I think these are minor things in the whole grand scheme of things, and we should let them be the way they would like to, and maybe on an odd occasion we can tell them of their origin and philosophy. But because today I can see a lot of this celebration, not just in the US, but all over the world. I mean, countries who are third world countries as well. It is not done more in a religious spirit than in a cultural way, in which they just have those fancy, or maybe, as you said, odd looking clothes. But then this is how they just create a fun activity. So, all said and done, I would say that even if we think that it is something of an unbecoming nature, living in the US, maybe you're living in countries where you are going to face this a lot. It's better to concentrate more on the bigger things that you'd like your children and grandchildren to follow, because I don't think this is something that you should be really worried about if they are following the major directives of religion.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem, and thank you all to all the participants, especially for participating in such a heartwarming discussion and for bringing in your questions. And thank you, Dr. Saleem, for your encouragement and for holding these sessions. Inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow in another session of textual study of the Qur'an. And until then, please take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.